Rocky's Voyage after Project Hail Mary. EP.01, The Last Lesson. This one I can't solve. Ryland Grace, his final year on Erid. Erid has no sky. To be precise, there is nothing that could be called a sky. The atmosphere at 29 atmospheres of pressure is so thick that light gets absorbed before it can scatter. So the concept of looking up simply doesn't exist for Iridians. They have no eyes, they don't need any. But for Ryland Grace, even after 40 years, it was still sometimes a lonely thing. When was the last time I actually missed the sky? 5 years ago? 10? At some point I just forgot. Humans adapt to anything, even life on a 29-atmosphere alien planet. Grace coughed inside his survival suit. The coughing had become frequent lately. The suit's internal diagnostic system had flagged declining lung function 2 years ago, but there were no CT scanners on Erid. No pulmonologists either. All he had was an oxygen generator he'd kept running for over 30 years through sheer stubbornness and jury-rigging, and an air filter he'd built himself from Iridian materials. The classroom, what could be called a classroom by Iridian standards, was 12 meters underground, a hemispherical chamber lined with xenonite walls, a hallmark of Iridian architecture. They see with sound, so the hemispherical ceiling distributes sound waves evenly, creating a well-lit environment. The same principle as putting lights in a human classroom. The hemispherical shape of Iridian classrooms is grounded in acoustics. Inside a hemisphere, sound waves reflect uniformly without focal points. Just as humans use lighting to ensure visibility, Iridians use spatial geometry to ensure acoustic visibility. Iridian auditory organs detect vibrations in the range of approximately 10 Hz to 100 kHz, roughly 5 times the human hearing range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. There were 5 students, Iridians smaller than Rocky, their exoskeletons not yet fully hardened, making soft creaking sounds whenever they moved. Middle schoolers, maybe, in human terms. Grace loved that sound. It was the closest thing to children laughing. Grace stood before the chalkboard, a xenonite slab with a vibration stylus that etched characters into the surface, and began. All right, today I'm going to teach you the most beautiful equation in the universe. He etched slowly with the vibration stylus, the formula converted into the Iridian numeral system, base 6 notation, one beautiful equation. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. On the planet where I was born, a very smart person figured this out. Do you know what this equation means? One student answered in sound waves. High frequency, the Iridian expression of confidence. Mass can become energy, is correct? Question. Exactly, and it works the other way too. Energy can become mass. The food you eat, the walls of this classroom, this survival suit of mine, the light of 40 Eridani out there, all just different forms of the same thing. Grace coughed again, longer this time. The student's sound waves dropped subtly lower, the frequency of worry. All right, that's enough for today. After the students left, Grace stood before the chalkboard for a while. E equals mc2, Einstein, Earth, the planet where he was born, the place he could never go back to. No regrets, really none. I lived here for 40 years, taught children, had a friend, the best friend. It wasn't a bad life, Grace. Your life wasn't bad at all. Grace knew Rocky had arrived by the footsteps. Iridians have 5 legs. Each time their xenonite exoskeleton touched the floor, it made a crisp little click-click sound. 40 years of hearing that sound. Even with his eyes closed, and on Erid, in the perpetual darkness, it was always as good as having his eyes closed. He could pick out Rocky's footsteps from 100 Iridians. Rocky's third left leg was slightly shorter, from an accident on the Hail Mary long ago. Grace's room was small, the only one atmosphere space in the entire Iridian residential district. Through the pressure bulkhead, Rocky stood on the other side, between the 29 atmosphere Iridian world and the 1 atmosphere human world, thick xenonite. For 40 years, that bulkhead had never stopped their conversations. Sound waves pass through solid material just fine. Grace was lying in bed. He didn't feel well today, not just today really, the last few days. Honestly, the last few months. Grace, temperature low, heart slow. Why question? Iridians have no sight, but they sense vibrations. Even through the bulkhead, Rocky could detect Grace's heartbeat, breathing pattern, and the infrared vibrations from his body heat. A more accurate vitals check than any human doctor, and Rocky had 40 years of baseline data. The Iridian sensory system is fundamentally different from that of humans. Without sight, they can detect temperature differences as small as 0.001 K and perceive the shape and state of nearby objects through vibrations transmitted via solids. Rocky can read Grace's heart rate through the bulkhead because the microvibrations from each heartbeat travel through the bed frame, into the floor, and through the xenonite wall. Rocky, I think I'm just tired. Tired is fixed by sleep. This not tired, this different thing. I know I am not stupid. Yeah, I know you're not stupid. Can fix, question. This one can't be fixed, friend. This is just an equation with a predetermined answer. Same answer for every living thing. The final value is 0. Hate 0, hate. Rocky's 5 fingers touched the bulkhead. The warmth of xenonite conducted through the wall. Iridian body temperature runs far hotter than a human's. Ammonia-based biology, internal temperature around 210 degrees Celsius. Even through the bulkhead, Grace could feel that warmth. 40 years of feeling it every day. Grace reached out from his bed and placed his hand on the bulkhead. Same spot as Rocky's hand. Rocky, good friend, good friend, good friend. Grace, good friend. That night, there is no day or night on Erid, but Grace had maintained a 24-hour cycle for 40 years. Grace's heart stopped. Rocky knew the vibrations were gone. Rocky stood before the bulkhead for 12 hours. In Iridian time perception that was close to eternity, he made no sound, he saw nothing. Grace taught me a word, sad. This absence of vibration, this empty frequency. I think this is what sad is. I understand now, I did not want to understand. The data left behind. Iridian funerals are quiet. Iridians melt down the exoskeletons of their dead and reprocess them into xenonite, recycling of matter. A practical culture, not a sentimental one, but Grace was not Iridian. Rocky did not process Grace's body the Iridian way. Instead, he sealed it in a 1-atmosphere vacuum chamber. Earth composition, air, maintained indefinitely, forever. Other Iridians asked, why not recycle? Question, I answered, Grace is not Iridian. In Grace's culture, they preserve the form. This is respect. A word Grace taught me, honoring the other's way. Several months passed. Rocky was organizing Grace's lab. The lab was on the other side of the bulkhead, in the 1-atmosphere zone, so Rocky had to use the remote manipulator Grace had built, a robot with 5 mechanical arms, modeled after the Iridian body plan. Grace had called it Mini Rocky. This machine's name is silly, I am large, this machine is small. Mini Rocky is an accurate description, but Grace always made a strange sound wave pattern when he said it. Grace called this laughing. I will not change the name. There was a laptop, originally from Earth, but repaired so many times with iridium materials that only the battery and processor were original parts. The entire casing was xenonite. Grace had called it the ship of Theseus laptop. Rocky had the joke explained to him, but didn't find it funny. Rocky opened the laptop with Mini Rocky. The screen lit up. Thousands of files, 40 years of research, Iridian biology, long-term astrophage observation, Iridian English dictionary updates, student learning records, personal diary. And one file, modified most recently. File name, 40 Iri Luminosity, Anomaly Draft, TXT. Rocky read the screen through Mini Rocky's camera. Iridians can't see text, but Grace had written a program that converted text into sound wave patterns. Grace's note, last modified. 40 Eridani luminosity, data anomaly. Data collected over the past 3 years shows subtle periodic variation. Amplitude approximately 0.003%. Small but consistent. Pattern differs from natural stellar variability, shaped like a damped oscillation. Hypothesis: after effect of decades-long astrophage energy absorption, possible disruption of internal thermal equilibrium. Damping period suggests recovery is underway, but the recovery path is nonlinear. Risk of overshoot. Weird pulsation, after effect. Need more data, tell Rocky. But he died before he could tell. Rocky transferred Grace's luminosity data into his own system, converted the visual graphs into sound wave patterns, a format Iridian analytical equipment could process. And he heard it. The light of 40 Eridani was trembling, faintly, rhythmically, like a sick heart. Grace is problem again, big problem. Stellar arrhythmia. The Iridian Science Academy was the deepest structure on Erid. 200 meters underground, a massive hemispherical chamber of xenonite and Iridian alloys. Dozens of Erid's finest scientists had gathered, Rocky among them. Rocky's status was complicated. 40 years ago, a hero who'd contacted an alien species from another star system and brought back the astrophage solution, but also someone who'd spent 40 years living with that alien, drifting slightly outside mainstream Iridian society, revered and distrusted in equal measure. But today was not a day for distrust. Today was a day for fear. Rocky presented the data. Grace's observations, converted into Iridian acoustic format, combined with the Science Academy's independently collected stellar wind measurements. 40 Eridani is sick. Listen to data. Rocky played the simulation. Luminosity data converted to sound waves, a format the Iridian scientists could hear. A low-frequency, slow pulsation. A healthy star's acoustic signature is steady and smooth, but this was different. It wavered, it trembled, it surged and receded in cycles, like Science note, stellar arrhythmia. A star is maintained by the balance of two forces, gravity, contracting inward, and radiation pressure, expanding outward. This is called hydrostatic equilibrium. Decades of astrophage absorbing 40 Eridani's energy was equivalent to an external perturbation of that equilibrium. Imagine a heart beating steadily, then having blood suddenly drained and returned over and over. After the astrophage disappeared, the star attempts to return to its original equilibrium, but the path is not simple. Nonlinear damped oscillation, output swinging up and down, gradually converging on the original value. The problem is that the overshoot, the moment when output exceeds the original value, could be lethal for Erid. 40 Eridani is a K1 dwarf, less massive than our Sun. For such a star, the Kelvin-Helmholtz timescale thermal equilibrium recovery time is approximately 15 million years. But for an unprecedented perturbation like astrophage, localized instabilities can manifest on much shorter timescales. 37 Iridian years from now, Earth time 52 years, radiation output overshoot to 1.4 times normal, probability is high. The chamber erupted. Iridian commotion is different from human commotion, a deep, low-frequency humming that fills the entire space. The frequency of anxiety, a chord of fear. 1.4 times atmospheric temperature rise is how much? Question. Average 48-degree increase. Polar ammonia glaciers melt completely. Atmosphere composition changes. Survival threshold exceeded. Iridian silence is darkness. Dozens of scientists standing in darkness simultaneously. Is there solution? Question. But there is a way, one way. Dozens of Iridians turned toward Rocky at once. Dozens of acoustic senses focused on him, the Iridian version of every eye in the room. Grace always said this: science is the art of being systematically wrong, Rocky. And he also said, what matters is what you do after you're wrong. Good, I will be systematically wrong then. I need more data. Observing 40 Eridani alone is not enough. I need a comparison. Another star affected by astrophage. Another star that might be experiencing the same aftereffects. Tau Ceti, the third target of the original Hail Mary project. A star attacked by astrophage, just like the Sun and 40 Eridani. Someone might have sent a solution there too, and by now, the same aftereffects might be happening there as well. Or a better possibility, someone might have already solved it. Tau Ceti must go. Tau Ceti maybe has answer. The humming grew louder. Tau Ceti, 10.7 light-years. It would be the farthest journey in Iridian history, farther even than when Rocky met the human aboard the Hail Mary. Who goes? Question. Rocky paused before answering. He thought of the room beyond the bulkhead, the one-atmosphere room, the room where Grace had lived for 40 years, the room that no longer carried the vibration of a heartbeat. Me, I go. I already did this once before. EP.02, the Hail Rocky. Rocky assembles a crew and sends a message toward Earth. Inside that message is an obituary. And then begins 16.3 light-years of silence. This story is an unofficial fan fiction written out of love for Andy Weir's project Hail Mary. It attempts to honor the original's scientific rigor, humor, and themes of friendship while imagining what came after. The musical notes, preceding Iridian dialogue, reflect the original novel's premise that the Iridian language is tone-based. In reality, it would be a complex harmony beyond human hearing range, but here it is simplified for text. Sections marked as science notes are grounded in real science, but extended in places to serve the story. This serial is part of an AI video adaptation project. Updates on the visual production will be shared as well. The 22B Labs, the 4th Path.com. Rocky's Voyage, after Project Hail Mary. EP.02, the Hail Rocky. Good teacher, good friend, good scientist. Is no longer alive. Rocky's message toward Earth. Rocky's decision. The Iridian Science Academy's Grand Chamber had been in turmoil for 2 days. Since Rocky announced, we must go to Tau Ceti. The reactions had split into three camps. First, the impossibilists. 10.7 light-years was farther than any journey in Iridian history. Second, the defeatists. 37 Iridian years wasn't nearly enough time to prepare, travel, and return with a solution. Third, the smallest group and the quietest, those who believed Rocky. The third group was quiet because of how Iridian culture works. In Iridian society, conviction is expressed in low frequencies. Unlike a human nodding vigorously, Iridian conviction is a deep, barely audible rumble. Rocky was the only one in the chamber who could detect it. He was an engineer. Distinguishing subtle vibrations was his profession. Much opposition, expected, but I did not come to the academy to ask permission. I came to inform. This is something I learned from Grace. He called it determination, the act of telling someone after you have already decided. Astrophage fuel is sufficient, 10.7 light-years. Question. Sufficient. Astrophage farming technology was completed 40 years ago with Grace. Fuel is farmed, no problem. Rocky had already begun designing the ship. Truthfully, he'd started before Grace died. Rocky was an engineer. Engineers are always designing something. When Grace was alive, the reason was just in case. Now the reason had simply changed. Who goes? Question. Alone? Question. Rocky paused. Alone. He had been alone 40 years ago too. Every scientist aboard the Iridian ship Blindheart had died, and Rocky alone survived to meet Grace. He had managed alone. But I managed because Grace was there, because I was not alone. This time also I must not be alone. Grace taught me something. Humans call it a team. No, not alone. Need team. 2 scientists, 1 engineer, 4 total including me. The ship took 11 months to build. A design combining Iridian technology with Earth technology Grace had left behind. Rocky named it himself. The Hail Rocky. Grace would have laughed and probably said, "Rocky, didn't I teach you the word humility?" Rocky would have answered, "You taught, I did not understand." The Hail Rocky was fundamentally different from the Blindheart. The Blindheart was born of desperation. The Hail Rocky was born of experience. Propulsion, astrophage reaction engine. Same principle as the original Hail Mary, but 40 years of farming refinement yielded 30% improved fuel efficiency. Theoretical top speed, 0.12 c, 12% light speed. 10.7 light-years at 0.12 c, approximately 89 years of travel. Given Iridian lifespans, this is likely a one-way trip. Including acceleration and deceleration phases, actual transit time is approximately 100 years. Special compartment at the ship center, 11 atmosphere vacuum chamber. Official records list its purpose as undesignated. Every crew member knows the real reason, just in case they meet humans again. The crew numbered 4, Rocky included. First was Cocky, young astrophysicist, researched stellar dynamics at the Science Academy, the only scientist who independently reached the same conclusion as Rocky upon seeing the stellar arrhythmia data. Rocky had personally selected her. Second was Nikki, biochemist, one of ERID's longest-serving astrophage researchers, published 6 papers by Iridian academic standards on astrophage energy storage mechanisms. Third was Tiki, engineer, younger than Rocky, faster with his hands. In Rocky's own words, better engineer than me. When Rocky said this, his sound waves carried a peculiar pattern. Grace would have translated it as pride in a protege. Cocky Nicky Tiki, if Grace had heard this, he would have said, "Rocky, do all your names end in Kai?" And I would have answered, Iridian names are sound wave patterns. They do not end in chi. Human hearing cannot distinguish them. Grace would have made that strange sound wave pattern again, laughing. Grace, I miss you. Message toward Earth. The day before departure, Rocky was at Erid's radio transmission facility. This facility hadn't existed before. Rocky built it. More precisely, Rocky and Grace designed it together, and Iridian engineers constructed it. Radio communication was a foreign concept to Iridians. They are an acoustic civilization. But Grace had explained, sound doesn't travel through vacuum. There's no air between stars. You need radio waves. Rocky understood. Engineers can build anything once they understand the physics. The message had 4 parts. Message encoding uses the Iridian English conversion protocol Grace, developed during his lifetime. It is compatible with the original data format, the Hail Mary sent to Earth, so Earth's receiving facilities, if still operational, should be able to decode it. Rocky dictated the message in Iridian. The transmission system auto-converted it using Grace's protocol. Part 1, Status Request. This is Erid, planet of 40 Eridani. Iridian Rocky sends, Earth respond, did astrophage solution work? Question, is the sun stable? Question, are the humans of Earth alive? Question. Part 2, Crisis Report. New problem found, astrophage after effect. Energy output of 40 Eridani is unstable. Nonlinear damped oscillation. Lethal overshoot possible within 52 Earth years. Observation data attached. Request confirmation if same phenomenon in Earth's sun. Part 3, Rendezvous Proposal. Iridian expedition departing for Tau Ceti. Tau Ceti may have same problem or may have solution. If Earth can also send expedition, meet at Tau Ceti. Coordinates and estimated arrival time attached. Rocky stopped here, stopped for a long time. Part 4 was not science, not data, not coordinates. Ryland Grace, human of Earth, crew of the Hail Mary, lived on Erid for 40 years, taught science to Iridian children, learned Iridian language, respected Iridian culture, researched astrophage together. Rocky's sound waves dropped low, almost inaudible, not the frequency of conviction, but its opposite. The Iridian language has no exact tone for sadness. But the frequency Rocky had learned from Grace, human emotion, translated into Iridian sound waves, came out naturally. Grace, good teacher, good friend, good scientist, is no longer alive. Rocky added 1 more lines. Grace was happy, I know. He pressed transmit. Radio waves punched through Erid's thick atmosphere and into space, at the speed of light, a signal that would reach Earth in 16.3 years, a signal no one might be listening for, a signal aimed at a planet that might no longer exist. But it had to be sent. Grace would have sent it. Grace always said, if the probability isn't 0, you have to try. Radio waves are not sound, not vibrations. I cannot feel them, but I imagine the moment they reach Earth after crossing 16.3 years of space. Someone hears it. They hear Grace's name. On Grace's planet, Grace's people learn that Grace was happy. The Hail Rocky completed its final checks in Erid orbit. The concept of launch is different for Iridians. Erid's 29 atmosphere air makes rocket launches virtually impossible, too much atmospheric drag. Instead, Iridians use an orbital elevator, a structure connecting the surface to an orbital station via xenonite cable. The Blind Heart departed the same way 40 years ago. Rocky looked down at Erid from the orbital station. Looking down is a human expression, of course. Rocky detected the infrared radiation Arid emitted, the thick heat of a 29-atmosphere world, his home, his world, a place he might never return to. Inside the ship, Cocky, Nicky, and Ticky were at their stations. Rocky took the captain's position. Iridian ships don't have chairs. They have clamps that lock 5 legs in place. Crew report, all systems status report. Navigation systems nominal, Tau Ceti coordinates entered. Astrophage fuel tanks full, farming system online, no problems. Hull integrity nominal, engine ignition ready, 1 atmosphere compartment also nominal. The 1 atmosphere compartment, Rocky thought about that empty space for a moment, a room sized for 1 human, oxygen generator and air circulation installed, a space that might never be used, but Rocky had built it. Grace would have called this optimism or irrational hope. I am an engineer. Engineers are not irrational. I call this design margin, preparing for every scenario where the probability is not 0. Basic engineering. Good engine ignition. The astrophage reaction engine fired. The Hail Rocky began to move. Arid grew distant. 40 Eridani grew smaller. The universe grew larger. From the captain's station, Rocky detected the fading vibrations from Arid's direction. The heat of home, a signal growing weaker, like a heartbeat fading away. Grace, I am doing it again, what you taught me. If there is a problem, solve it. If you don't know, learn. If you are wrong, correct. If you are not alone, even better. This time you are not here, but everything you taught me is here. That is enough to try. The Hail Rocky accelerated toward Tau Ceti into 10.7 light-years of darkness. And the radio signal toward Earth flew in the opposite direction, into 16.3 light-years of silence. The 2 signals would never meet, but both carried the same person's name. EP.03, arrival at Tau Ceti. After 89 years of voyage, the Hail Rocky reaches Tau Ceti. But something is already in orbit. An artificial structure, not Iridian. And not from Earth either. This story is an unofficial fan fiction written out of love for Andy Weir's project Hail Mary. The musical notes reflect the original novel's premise that the Iridian language is tone-based. Science notes are grounded in real science, but extended for the story. Haven't read EP.01, The 4th Path, com. 22B Labs, The 4th Path, com. Rocky's Voyage, after Project Hail Mary. EP.03, arrival at Tau Ceti. Design margin was correct. Rocky in Tau Ceti orbit. 89 years is a long time. By human standards, it's longer than a full lifetime. By Iridian standards, no one knows exactly. There is no precise data on Iridian lifespans. It was one of the things Grace never managed to determine, not because Rocky wouldn't tell him, but because Iridians themselves don't know. For them, age is a relative concept measured by the degree of exoskeleton hardening, not an absolute unit of time. What was certain was that Rocky was old. Over the 89-year voyage, Rocky's exoskeleton had visibly, since he's Iridian, detectably by vibration, changed. The joints in his xenonite shell had stiffened. There was friction noise when he moved that hadn't been there before. His 5 legs were slower. Grace said it before he died. This is an equation with a predetermined answer. The final value is 0. I am also a variable in that equation, not 0 yet, but approaching 0. Engineers do not ignore the numbers. Cocky, Nicky, and Ticky were healthy. They were younger than Rocky, still in their active period even after 89 years. Ticky especially had disassembled and reassembled every system on the Hail Rocky at least twice during the voyage. An engineer's instinct, when there's nothing to do, take apart what's there. Over 89 years, the four of them had done every possible preparation, refined the stellar arrhythmia theoretical model dozens of times, studied astrophage energy dynamics from new angles, analyzed the Tau Ceti system's planetary composition from remote observation data. And every single day for 89 years, Rocky inspected the one-atmosphere compartment. Rocky inspecting one-atmosphere compartment again today. Question. Inspected every day for 89 years, never broke once. Why continue? Question. Reason it never broke is because I inspect every day. Ticky didn't ask again. Engineers understand that logic. An unexpected signal. When deceleration began at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, Cocky detected an anomaly. Rocky, artificial signal detected from Tau Ceti E orbit, repeating pattern, not natural. Rocky's exoskeleton stiffened imperceptibly. The reason he had traveled 89 years was right there, not in front of his eyes, in front of his ears. Analyze signal characteristics. Is Iridian technology? Question. No, not Iridian communication frequency band, radio wave based. Radio waves, Rocky knew, a civilization that uses radio. Iridians are an acoustic civilization. Radio was something Grace had taught him. Radio-based communication. Analyze frequency band. Compare with Hail Mary communication protocol. Cocky ran the analysis, 3 minutes for results. Those 3 minutes felt longer than 89 years. 94% match, modified version of Hail Mary communication protocol. Rocky, this is. Design margin was correct. The one-atmosphere compartment, the empty room I inspected every day for 89 years, it might not be empty anymore. After resolving the astrophage crisis, Earth's astronomers would have observed aftereffects in other star systems. The distance from Earth to Tau Ceti is 11.9 light-years, though Erid to Tau Ceti is shorter at 10.7 light-years. Earth departed decades earlier, enabling an earlier arrival. Earth's propulsion technology likely advanced beyond the original Hail Mary design. Improved astrophage fuel efficiency or novel acceleration methods could have shortened transit time. Through the bulkhead. The Earthship was called the Second Chance. It was bigger than the Hail Mary, much bigger. Where the Hail Mary had been the product of a desperate one-way mission, the Second Chance was a prepared exploration vessel. 6 crew members aboard, fully awake, no artificial hibernation, with a self-sustaining ecosystem. Plant cultivation zones, protein synthesis facilities, even a small library. The Second Chance's captain was Shin Hyun-seo, Korean, astrophysicist and astronaut. Shin Hyun-seo responded to Rocky's signal within 3 hours. Captain Shin, radio. Hailing Iridian vessel. This is Earth exploration ship Second Chance. Captain Shin Hyun-seo, we have received your signal. We know about Ryland Grace and the Iridians. We propose docking. Rocky heard the message. Grace's protocol converted English into Iridian sound waves, and was still for a long time. We know about Ryland Grace. They know Grace. Earth remembers. Grace, your planet remembers you. While you slept, across 16.3 light-years, they remembered. Docking took 6 hours. The The two ships had completely different technical specifications, but Tiki managed it. Using vibration analysis, he mapped the second chances out a hull structure, designed a compatible airlock adapter in 4 hours, and fabricated it in 2. The airlock connected, but of course, Iridians and humans couldn't share the same space. 29 atmospheres versus 1 atmosphere, 210 degrees C versus 22 degrees C, ammonia atmosphere versus oxygen nitrogen. Just as on the original Hail Mary, a bulkhead was needed. Rocky stood before the bulkhead. A human was on the other side. The first time he had felt a human at this distance since Grace, 40 years and 89 years ago. He felt heartbeats, microvibrations transmitted through the bulkhead, not one heart but several, different rhythms, different body temperatures, but the same species, Grace's species. Rocky, is that right? Rocky heard the sound waves, English, Grace's language, a sound he hadn't heard in 89 years. The pronunciation was different, subtly different from Grace's English, but he could understand, thanks to 40 years of hearing English every day. Correct, I am Rocky, happy to meet. Strange sound waves came from beyond the bulkhead, multiple humans producing sounds simultaneously, high frequency, irregular pattern, but not hostile vibrations. Rocky recognized this. He had heard it every day for 40 years. Laughing and crying at the same time. Captain Shin asked the question she had to ask. How is Dr. Grace doing? The heartbeats beyond the bulkhead quickened simultaneously, the vibration of anticipation. Rocky felt it and knew he had to break it. Grace is no longer alive. The heartbeats changed. Some quickened, others slowed. Breathing patterns became irregular, the physiological response of humans in shock. Rocky had observed one human for 40 years, but that data was enough to read multiple responses. The fundamental patterns are the same. How did he pass? Old age, the natural process of a human body stopping, Grace explained. No pain, stopped like falling asleep. Was he happy? Yes, Grace was happy, I know. How do you know? Listen to Grace's heartbeat every day for 40 years. I know the pattern when happy. Grace was happy when teaching children, happy when solving problems, happy when talking to me. Even on Grace's last day, heart pattern was peaceful, I know. Rocky handed over Grace's laptop and 40 years of research data through the 1 atmosphere airlock. Everything Grace left behind. On Earth, Dr. Grace is a hero. Everyone knows his name. Not hero, scientist, teacher, friend, these are better words. Grace, I met your people, people who remember you, people who call you hero. I told them you were not a hero, but a scientist and a teacher and a friend, that these things are better than hero. If Grace had heard, he would have made that strange soundwave pattern, laughing, and probably said, Rocky, that's the same thing. Probably correct. Grace is usually correct. The third signal. It was the third day of joint analysis between Captain Shin and Rocky when Cocky detected something again. Rocky, energy emission detected from Tau CTE surface, regular pattern, artificial, but not human technology and not Iridian technology. Rocky and Captain Shin reacted simultaneously. Our sensors picked up the same thing, the energy spectrum. Rocky, it's similar to astrophage but in reverse. It's not absorbing energy, it's emitting it. Reverse astrophage, energy emission, means someone made it. They analyzed the emission pattern. It contained a prime number sequence, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Nature does not produce prime patterns, only intelligence does. Someone was on Tau CTE. Not human, not Iridians. Is problem? No, maybe not problem, don't know yet. Grace, if you were here, what would you have said? EP.04, those who speak in light. Humans speak in sound, Iridians speak in vibration. The beings of Tau CTE speak in light. The only language all three can share is mathematics. Starting from 1, 2, 3 all over again. This story is an unofficial fan fiction written out of love for Andy Weir's project Hail Mary. The musical notes reflect the original novel's premise that the Iridian language is tone-based. Science notes are grounded in real science, but extended for the story. Left Arrow EP. The Last Lesson EP.02 The Hail Rocky, The 4th Path, com. 22B Labs, The 4th Path, com. Rocky's Voyage, after Project Hail Mary. EP.04, Those Who Speak in Light. Start from basics, 1, 2, 3. Rocky, using Grace's method. Tau CTE was a beautiful planet, to human eyes at least. Captain Shin described the imagery from the Second Chance's observation equipment to Rocky. Rocky couldn't see, after all. Instead, he heard the planet's infrared radiation and gravitational vibrations. The two species were perceiving the same planet in entirely different ways. Surface temperature is high, average around 180 degrees C. Atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Surface gravity about 1.7 g. Humans can walk, but it's hard. 180 degrees, bit cold for Iridians, but can function. 1.7 g is light for Iridians, arid is 2 g. The energy source was near the planet's equator, a structure rising from the middle of a vast plain. Captain Shin described the high-resolution imagery. It's a crystalline structure, about 200 meters tall, not natural, too symmetrical, and it's glowing. The entire surface changes color in regular patterns, red, blue, violet, back to red. Light, I cannot see light. Light is a sense that does not exist for Iridians, like ultrasound is inaudible to humans. If that structure is saying something with light, I can never directly understand it. Grace would have explained. Rocky, it's like a rainbow, but Grace is not here. Captain Shin is here instead. A different human, but one with eyes. A joint expedition was decided. Rocky and Nikki from the Iridian side. Captain Shin and geologist Amir Hassan from the human side. 2 shuttles descended side by side, Iridian and human, separated by a bulkhead, heading in the same direction. Up close, the structure was, according to Captain Shin, not a building. Rocky, this is a living thing, or a living thing that is also a structure. Light patterns flow through its crystalline surface. The skin, I don't know if I should call it skin, is translucent crystal, with colors moving inside, like a giant display. Then smaller forms emerged from the structure, from the organism. Captain Shin's description, approximately 1.5 meters tall, slightly shorter than humans, bodies of translucent crystal, veins of light flowing inside, 3 legs in a triangular arrangement, extremely stable, forearm-like appendages, thin, long crystal branches, no discernible head. Instead, their entire body surface shifted colors and patterns, glowing. The Taurians' light language draws from real biology. Cuttlefish and octopi use chromatophores in their skin to change colors and patterns for communication. Taurians represent an extreme evolution of this. controlling optical interference patterns within crystalline surfaces to transmit information. 5 forms stood before the expedition, and according to Captain Shin, began to glow. I cannot see, do they make sound? Question. No, completely silent. Is problem, is problem, is problem. Communication not possible. The communication barrier was stark. Humans speak in sound, Iridians speak in vibration. Both use sound waves, so bulkhead-mediated communication is possible, but these beings speak in light. Humans can see the light, but don't know what the patterns mean. Iridians cannot detect light at all. Total communication failure. Rocky remembered. 40 years ago, the Hail Mary, when Rocky first met Grace, they didn't know each other's language, biology, or civilization. What Grace did was simple. Set down 1 pebble, hold up 1 finger, 2 pebbles, 2 fingers, 3 pebbles. Anywhere in the universe, 1 is 1. Mathematics, along with the laws of physics, is the only universal language in the cosmos. Shin, there is a way, Grace taught me, start from basics. Rocky set down 1 small tool piece, spoke 1 in sound waves, 2 pieces, 2, 3 pieces, 3. Captain Shin did the same with pebbles, saying 1, 2, 3 in English. The Taurians didn't move. 10 seconds, 20, 30. They're responding, light patterns on their surfaces, 1 flash, 2 flashes, 3 flashes. It took time, a lot of time, 3 hours to establish a number system, 2 more for basic arithmetic, but with each step, the pace accelerated. The Taurians weren't slow, they were careful. Grace was like this too, slow at first, fast after understanding, must be universal to intelligent beings, regardless of species. After the number system came physical constants. Rocky proposed pi 3.14159, using a metal rod bent into a circle, demonstrating the ratio of diameter to circumference. Captain Shin showed the same visually. The Taurian response. They're showing numbers in light patterns, 3.14159, it keeps going, 20 decimal places, they know pi. In the original novel, Grace and Rocky began communicating by counting. Rocky remembers the method. They already knew. Communication was slow but progressing. From numbers to the periodic table, identifying elements by proton count needs no language. Hydrogen equals 1, helium equals 2, lithium equals 3. Once the periodic table was established, they moved to molecular structures. Water H2O, carbon dioxide CO2, ammonia NH3. The Taurians showed interest when Rocky demonstrated this. Silicon dioxide, CO2, they responded strongly, their base material presumably. And then Nikki showed the critical one. The molecular structure of astrophage. The Taurian response was immediate. Rocky, the Taurians are excited, light patterns exploding, and they're showing the same molecular structure, astrophage, but slightly different. Part of the structure is modified. Modified? What modification? Describe exactly. The energy storage site is mirror-inverted. The molecular structure that absorbs energy in Dr. Grace's original data has been flipped to emit energy. Reverse astrophage, energy-emitting astrophage. Taurians made it. Taurians know astrophage. Mirror-invert that structure. Theoretically, energy release replaces energy storage. Just as ATP breaks down to add to release energy, reverse astrophage could perform controlled energy emission. If the Taurians engineered this, they understand astrophage biochemistry at a far deeper level than humans or Iridians. The Taurians know astrophage. No, more than no, they re-engineered it, turned energy absorption into energy emission. This is something humans and Iridians combined could not do. For the Taurians, astrophage was not a problem, it was a tool. For us, it could be the answer. Grace, you were right, the answer is always somewhere else, and it takes a different perspective. 3 perspectives, sound and vibration and light, were needed. Shin, tell the Taurians, we need help, and probably Taurians also need help. How do we convey the concept of help? We haven't shared abstract nouns yet. No need abstract nouns, show with actions. Grace did this for me. Grace helped before teaching the word help. EP.05, Grace's equation, finale. 3 species, solve 1 problem together. Taurian biology, human analysis, Iridian engineering. And the unfinished notes of a dead scientist become the final key. Is problem solve? This story is an unofficial fan fiction written out of love for Andy Weir's project Hail Mary. The musical notes reflect the Iridian tone-based language. The Taurian, light language, is inspired by cuttlefish chromatophore communication. Left arrow EP03 arrival at Tau Ceti, EP05 Grace's equation, finale, right arrow the 4th path, com. 22B Labs, the 4th path, com. SCIFI serial finale. Rocky's Voyage, after Project Hail Mary. EP05, Grace's equation. This time I go. Rocky, the final decision. The first experiment nearly destroyed everything. After finding Grace's key hypothesis, that astrophage energy release is a feedback mechanism responding to ambient luminosity, the 3 species spent 3 weeks on joint research. The theory was elegant. Adjust the luminosity threshold of Taurian-made reverse astrophage, and you can control energy emission. Nikki produced the first sample with a molecularly adjusted threshold, a small, safe amount, a prototype. The prototype went runaway. Energy release surging, 12 times predicted value, threshold setting was wrong. Only the small quantity saved them, but the Iridian pressurized chambers outer wall hit 340 degrees C, beyond the Iridian survivable limit of 280 degrees C. Nikki's left side exoskeleton suffered heat damage, the equivalent of second-degree burns in human terms. The problem was more complex than anyone realized. Not just luminosity, but the rate of change of luminosity was also a variable. 2 variables to control simultaneously. Get one right, the other goes wrong. This is a PID controller problem, isn't it? Proportional integral derivative control, the most basic feedback control method in engineering. Rocky's entire exoskeleton resonated, an engineer's resonance. Correct. PID, proportional term is luminosity absolute value, derivative term is luminosity rate of change, integral term is cumulative deviation correction, must encode this into molecular structure. Nikki, possible, question. During the second prototype build, Rocky collapsed. 72 consecutive hours of work, system design and Taurian communication simultaneously, skipping meals. His old body gave out, all 5 legs locking simultaneously. When Rocky regained consciousness, 4 hours had passed. Tiki was beside him. Measured Rocky's exoskeleton hardening. Joint wear rate increased 300% compared to 6 months ago. At this rate, Cannot be certain Rocky survives the return voyage to Arid. Knew and still worked 72 hours straight. Question. Because no time. The equation's final value is approaching zero. My equation, but Arid's equation is also approaching zero. 36 Iridian years remain. Whether my zero comes first or Arid's zero, it is a race. Grace would have said, Rocky, you can't solve anything if you're dead. Rest. Stellar thermostat. 3 months, 7 failures, 3 additional heat damage scars on Nikki's exoskeleton. Dr. Hassan's spacesuit cooling system hit its limit twice. 1 Taurian scientist's crystalline surface partially opacified from energy overexposure, partial blindness by Taurian standards. But they did it. PID control logic encoded into reverse astrophage at the molecular level. 3 reaction pathways, proportional, integral, derivative, operating automatically. When ambient luminosity changes, reverse astrophage self-adjusts emission. Positive feedback converted to negative feedback. Stellar thermostat, Rocky's name for it. Tau CT prototype test, luminosity fluctuations stabilized within 72 hours. Amplitude reduced 95%. Time to go home, each species to save their own star. A Taurian handed Rocky a small crystal, light patterns fixed inside. The stopped star. 3 ships departed Tau Ceti, second chance toward the sun, hail Rocky toward 40 Eridani. Day 7, after departure, Rocky was monitoring the second chance's thrust signature, a habit inherited from Grace. The thrust signature vanished. Confirmed, no thrust signature. Second chance engine appears to have stopped. Engine shutdown in interstellar space, drifting on inertia, no deceleration, no course changes, even upon reaching the solar system, no way to stop, pass right through at percent of light speed. The radio response from Captain Shin was urgent. Captain Shin, radio. Rocky, contamination in our astrophage fuel tank. The reverse astrophage sample from Tau CTE containment breached. It leaked into the fuel tank. Fuel astrophage and reverse astrophage mixing, energy cancelling out. Fuel reserves dropping fast. Cannot restart engine. 40 years ago, Grace gave up his return to Earth to save my ship. He could have gone home. Instead, he saved me. Because of that choice, Grace lived 40 years on Arid and never returned to Earth. Grace did not regret it. No regrets, he said. I know from 40 years of daily heartbeat patterns. The choice is already made, was always made, from the beginning. Cocky, Nicky, Ticky, orders. Separating the Hail Rocky, main hull, you 3 take it to Arid. Reverse astrophage samples, stellar thermostat blueprints, all data. Saving Arid is first priority. Ticky takes command. Rocky is, question. I take the auxiliary shuttle to second chance. Fix the fuel contamination, repair the engine. I am engineer. This is engineer's job. I will go instead. Younger than Rocky, better engineer than Rocky. Rocky said so. Ticky, you must go to Arid. Arid needs you, needs an engineer to deploy the stellar thermostat. And second chance has a 1-atmosphere zone. I know how to communicate with humans through a bulkhead. 40 years experience. This is something Ticky cannot do. Ticky was silent for a long time, silence between engineers, then acceptance. The Hail Rocky split, main hull toward 40 Eridani with Cocky, Nicky, Ticky. Auxiliary shuttle, Rocky alone, turned around, toward the second chance. Rocky will wait on Arid. Do not wait, deploy thermostat first, Arid first, my return is second. Rocky, can you return? Question. Probability is not 0. 48 hours later, Rocky reached the second chance, drifting on inertia, engine silent. He docked through the bulkhead, 6 heartbeats, all alive. Rocky, Wise, how are you here? Detected engine failure, came to fix, I am engineer. Rocky worked 18 hours, isolated the contaminated tank, transplanted clean astrophage from his shuttle, neutralized residual reverse astrophage. His old exoskeleton screamed, 3 legs intermittently locking, but Rocky did not stop. The second chance's engine fired, astrophage reaction, thrust, life. It works, Rocky, it works. Is problem solved? Captain Shin proposed it. Rocky, come aboard the second chance, come with us to Earth. Whether we can send you back to Erid from there, I can't promise, but it's better than drifting alone in interstellar space. Good, go to Earth, Grace's planet, where Grace was born. The second chance resumed acceleration, toward the sun, carrying Rocky. Toward 40 Eridani, the Hail Rocky flew on. Ticky, Cocky, Nicky aboard, stellar thermostat loaded. On Tau Ceti, the Taurians were stabilizing their own star. Captain Shin told Rocky what she'd found in Grace's diary. If Rocky is reading this diary, Rocky, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Rocky stood there for a long time. You were the best thing that ever happened to me too. I am going to your planet now, where you were born, where you looked up at the sky, through a 29-atmosphere bulkhead, but I will feel that sky too. There was a problem, solved it. More problems will come, we'll solve those too. The way you taught me. Is problem solved? The second chance accelerated, toward the sun, toward Earth. 3 civilizations, 3 stars, 3 languages, 1 science, 1 legacy. Ryland Grace, Earth's scientist, Erid's teacher, Rocky's friend. His equation was saving 3 stars. Author's note, ON completion. Thank you for reading Rocky's Voyage. In the original project Hail Mary, Grace sacrificed his return to Earth to save Rocky. In this story, Rocky sacrifices his return to Erid to save Grace's people. Friendship, perhaps, is exactly that. EP.01, The Last Lesson. EP.02, The Hail Rocky. EP.03, Arrival at Tau Ceti. EP.04, Those Who Speak in Light. EP.05, Grace's Equation, Finale. 22B Labs, The 4th Path, com.